Hello guys, it's Mr. Lila Bubba, and I'm here with another OU match on Pokemon Showdown. This is actually the same team that I used for my last OU Pokemon Showdown match. But yeah, there's not really much else to talk about beforehand, so let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm using the same Rain team, and I'm going to go ahead and lead with my Politoed. And he's actually going to lead with his Terrakion. I thought he'd lead with his Tyranitar to try to get the sand up, but maybe he knew that I'd be slower. So I go ahead and go for the Scald, knowing that really nothing on his team except for maybe Tentacruel or Keldeo would want to take that. But he brings in his Tyranitar, which I was kind of hoping he would, because he would still be taking a pretty hefty amount of damage. But that Scald did not do nearly as much as I wanted, but I got the burn, and that's very important. Well, not very important, but it's pretty important later on in the match. I was actually pretty lucky to have gotten that burn because it kind of forces him to switch out, and I believe we actually have a double switch here. We both switch out. I bring back my... No, never mind. I think he leaves in his Tyranitar. Or, no, he switches it out. What am I talking about? No, he doesn't. Okay, he goes for the Stealth Rock. And knowing he's probably going to switch out after this, and knowing he has no ghost types, I'm actually going to go ahead and go for the Rapid Spin to get those rocks out of there. But he brings in, I believe, his Tentacruel. So I think he has Toxic Spikes on his Tentacruel, and then the Stealth Rocks coming in with his Tyranitar. But I go for the Rapid Spin and get those out of there, and I choose to go for the Protect here just to see what he's got, because I don't know anything about this Tentacruel so far. And I've seen some pretty crazy sets on Tentacruel, though mostly they are defensive, but I just wanted to make sure by going for the Protect. And he actually does go for the Toxic Spikes here, which tells me he's going to try to set up residual damage, and he's not going to be doing very much attacking whatsoever. So I am just going to go ahead and actually spam Rapid Spin, knowing that actually with the damage from Rapid Spin mixed with the sand negating his leftovers, I can actually stall him out here, and he really has no choice other than to switch out. And I think he tries for Stealth Rocks one more time, or tries for the Toxic Spikes one more time, thinking I'd switch out, but I don't, of course. He might actually switch out here. No, he goes for the Scald, as I go for the Giga Drain. I believe that's what I go for here. Yeah, it's the Giga Drain. And the fact that I revealed Giga Drain right here makes one move that he makes later on in the match a little bit bizarre. Well, I guess it could still... It's still a plausible move, but we'll get to that later. So, I believe, yeah, here he switches out, as I go, I think, for another Giga Drain. Or maybe it was a Rapid Spin. I can't remember. No, I go for the Protect here, actually. And this is going to allow him to set up a sub, I believe, and it also activates his Toxic Orb. So his Gliscor is kind of a threat to my team. Not too much, because I know that if I get a safe switch, I can kill this thing easily with my Keldeo, because it does have the choice specs and it is packing the Hidden Power Ice. But he does go for the sub here, which is not good for me at all, because if he can set up Swords Dance or anything, then I can't necessarily kill this thing with Keldeo, and he could really mess up my team, except for maybe Dragonite with the multi-scale. But the point is that I need to get that sub out of there, so I bring in my Politoed to set up the Rain, and also to Ice Beam his sub. He goes for the Earthquake and doesn't do a lot of damage at all, so I'm thinking he'd Swords Dance, so I just decide to Ice Beam to get his sub out of there, but he actually goes for the Toxic right here and gets my Politoed poisoned. That could have been really bad for me. It didn't end up mattering that much at all. I still... it doesn't come into play that much, I should say. So I know that I can do a hefty amount of damage to this Gliscor if he stays in, and if he doesn't, I can hurt anything on his team except for Tentacruel or Keldeo. So of course the smart play for him is to go out into Tentacruel, his special wall that can easily wall my Politoed, especially the Ice Beam, which is what I'm going to go for again here. So maybe not very good predicting, as I could have gone out into my Gengar and packed the Thunder, but I believe that's what I do next, because I know he's going to go probably for a poison type move. He could go for the Scald, but I doubt he's going to, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and switch into my Gengar. I actually also kind of was banking on him switching out, predicting my Politoed switch. So I go out into Gengar as he goes, I believe, for Giga Drain right here. So that's pretty good for me, that's all he went for. And, yeah, this is a little bit of a stally match in a sense, but it's not too bad because, it does have its offensive points. But, yeah, I go for the Thunder here, thinking I'd take him out. I know he's specially defensive, but he lives. He just barely lives in the red on that Thunder. And I believe he goes for the Scald right here. And surprisingly, my Gengar lives, and I don't get burned, so a lot of luck here. And I know he's going to switch out because he doesn't want his Tentacruel to die. So I go ahead and go for the Shadow Ball, I believe, because I know that it'll do neutral damage to everything on his team. I could have gone for the Sludge Wave in retrospect, because his Tentacruel would have been the only one to resist it. So I go for the Shadow Ball here, and I do over half, and I get a special defense drop. So even after the health regen from Poison Heal, he's not going to be able to live my next Shadow Ball, so I force him to switch out, which is good. I'm careful not to go for the Thunder, seeing as Landorus is still in play. I believe I just go for the Shadow Ball again. Again, I should have gone for the Sludge Wave, but I go for the Shadow Ball again, and of course his Keldeo resists it, and I assume that it's Choice Scarf, because this thing is actually the exact same set as my Keldeo, except I believe it has a Choice Scarf instead of a Choice Specs. You'll see from the damage done later on. So I bring in my Dragonite as he goes for the Secret Sword, because I know that with resisting it and with multi-scale, actually he goes for the Surf here, which is pretty good for me. I know I can live another Surf, and if he switches out, it'd be even better. So I go for the Dragon Dance here as he switches out, I believe, back into Gliscor. I think that's what he goes out into, but he does switch out, and I get off. No, he goes into Tentacruel, and I get off a Dragon Dance. So I predicted him to switch probably into Landorus, but I was guessing maybe that thing was choiced or something and he didn't want to lose it because he would probably try to sweep my team with it at some point after getting Dragonite out of the way. But I go for the Earthquake, not thinking that he'd switch into Landorus, and he doesn't, and I actually end up killing off his Tentacruel, which means that I have free reign to set up rocks with Fortress, which is very, very important. That's crucial to this match, and you'll see why later on. So he brings in, I think, yeah, he brings in his Keldeo, and I know he has the HP Ice, because I know that my Keldeo has the HP Ice, and he has almost the exact same set, I believe, just switching out the Choice Specs for the Choice Scarf. So I go out into Fortress, who I know can take it. And this, I believe, is that bizarre play that I was talking about earlier. He knows I don't... he should know I don't have the Volt Switch because I revealed Giga Drain. But he switches his Keldeo out into Landorus anyway, which again is a good play in and of itself, but yeah, I do go for the Giga Drain, and actually I don't do that much to the Landorus, of course, because he does resist it. So he's kind of lucky here that that didn't do a lot. Yeah, he goes for the knockoff, which is actually very good for him, because it takes away my Sturdy. So that's going to allow me to... Or that's going to allow him to one-hit my Fortress if he does. But he was planning on Earth Powering it. But that reveals he's not choiced. He is actually Life Orbed. So I set up both layers of Toxic Spikes because I know his Tentacruel isn't in there to get them out of here anymore, which is very good. Again, will come into play later as being very, very important. And he goes for the Earth Power, takes down my my Fortress. I don't exactly know what that Protect was for. I just decided that it was necessary for some reason. That actually could have been bad if he would have tried to set up or switch out or something, but yeah, he he does, I believe, stay in with his Landorus, or maybe he switches out into his Gliscor, but I know nothing on his team wants to take a Surf, so he brings in, yeah, he brings back in his Tyranitar, as I go for the Surf again, and I believe he had a berry that reduced the damage on the first Surf, because that Surf did a lot more, which is very good for me. And he's actually going to be hurt by his burn, which is even better. Again, so that burn does come into play, but he actually, the fact that he lived that Surf still surprises me. Yeah, so I believe he brings in his Keldeo here, or maybe, no, he brings back in his Landorus. I'm not sure why I switched out here. I really could have taken this thing out, but I just chose to actually go out into my Gengar, knowing that now I'd won the Weather War. I go out into my Gengar. I could have gone straight out into my Politoed, but I don't know. I just decided that it would be better to go out into Gengar, and I go for the Shadow Ball here, because I don't think he'll outspeed me because he's not Choice Scarfed. So I go for the Shadow Ball, thinking I'd kill it, but he barely lives, about 17%, so I guess that's not barely, but he does live with a low amount of HP. And I get killed off by the Psychic, of course, but now I can safely bring in my Politoed, get the Rain back up, and then I really don't need my Politoed, unless... No, actually, I really don't need my Politoed, because the only problem he really has left on his team is that Keldeo. I actually could have used Politoed against it, but I believe I go for the Scald here because I know that everything on his team, except for Keldeo, of course, will get hurt by it, so I choose not to go for the Ice Beam. Of course, the Rain being up, the Scald is just going to do more. So he brings in his Gliscor here, and I know he's going to try to set up a sub, so I'm just actually going to spam Ice Beam because I don't want that thing to be behind a sub. But since I'm Toxic, he can't... or I can't really wall this thing very well, so I'm just going to have to sit there and continually click Ice Beam until I'm killed off of the poison, and I can get a switch into something when Gliscor is not behind a sub. That's basically the most important thing. And I believe what I'm going to want to get into is Keldeo. So he continues to use Substitute. I'm surprised, actually, that he didn't switch out, but it really doesn't matter because his Gliscor is basically dead because I can just sit here and spam Ice Beam, or I could, if he were to switch out, I could just let my Politoed be killed and then bring in Keldeo or something, and unless I lock myself into Secret Sword or Focus Blast, he's basically dead. So I do get killed off by the poison damage on this turn. That's going to allow me to go out into Keldeo, and I know Keldeo can, like, wreck his team, basically. Even his Keldeo is going to resist the Surf, but I'm not going to fear that whatsoever, because this is a Choice Spec, Rain-boosted Surf, so I know that if he brings something in, it's going to get hurt by it. But this was actually a smart play by him, letting his Gliscor die instead of trying to risk taking a Surf, so he can bring in his own Keldeo, and this is where this is very important, this Toxic getting onto this Keldeo. You'll see later on, I feel kind of bad that it was this important, but very important Toxic spikes there. I know that even without Multiscale, I can take a hit from this Keldeo. He goes for Secret Sword and I resist it, so that's not even Multiscale boosted defense there. I mean, that is just straight up Dragonite being a bulky little mofo. So I know I can live another Surf, or another Secret Sword, and if he switches out, it'd be even better. So he goes out into his Terrakion, which I don't think it's... I didn't think it was Scarfed, of course, so I go for the Dragon Dance. I didn't think it was Scarfed because he did have a Scarf on his Keldeo, so I didn't think he'd have two Scarfers on his team, and I was correct here as I go for, I believe, the Iron Head. I could have gone for Earthquake and actually killed this thing, but I don't think it matters in the end. I actually thought that the Iron Head would kill, but it doesn't. It leaves him with about 3 HP, and he doesn't flinch which kind of sucks. In retrospect, again, I should have gone for the Earthquake. There was really no reason not to. It would have done more damage. It would have knocked out his Terrakion. It would have allowed me to have my Dragonite against his Keldeo, but it really didn't matter because his Keldeo had HP Ice, and his Terrakion is killed off by the Poison here, so it's basically just a double down. So I go, I believe, here into Keldeo. Yeah. So his last Pokemon is Keldeo, and I know this thing's Choice Scarf. No, I actually go out into Sharpedo, but yeah, this thing is Choice Scarfed, so no matter what, I'm not going to be able to outspeed this Keldeo, basically, unless I get lucky and get two or three Protects in a row, because Keldeo is fast. I actually don't think even with a +2 or a +3 speed that I could outspeed this Keldeo with the Choice Scarf. So I'm actually just going to let No, I actually switch out into my own Keldeo, knowing that I can take a Secret Sword, hoping actually that I can take a Secret Sword, and I am able to do that, and that's very important. And if you haven't noticed by now why that's important, it's because the Toxic is actually going to stall out this Keldeo. He's going to get hurt by the Toxic this turn, and then the turn where he actually kills my Keldeo, and then I am going to bring in Sharpedo and then be able to use Protect and actually win the match. So actually win from the Toxic damage and the Protect. So very lucky and a very good match against BWAHAHA, something like that. He's laughing about something. But yeah, a good match, and thank you guys for watching. Please stay tuned for more. And yeah, subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video. Also, leave a like and comment and all that good stuff. Here's the end of the match. He gets killed off by the Toxic damage. Not too much to... not too much... No, it's not too pretty, but a win is a win. Yep, thanks again for watching. Peace out.